Hello, brothers and sisters. It is a lovely Tuesday night in my humble home here in a rural area in North Carolina. I got to go to work 5:30. I'm having a lovely Dos Equis. I figured I'd go live with y'all for a minute, continue my weekly chats, weekly rants. Anti-Imperialist America. I love that name. I love that name. I love this place. I love my neighbors. I love the region where I live. The multinational culture, deep, centuries old, in the South and all over the country. Commonly referred to as America. Has a lot more to do with our indigenous brothers and sisters, Chicano brothers and sisters. But just the depth of beauty and culture and art and food that I've seen going around all these, all 50 states, from the Black Belt South to Aslan to Appalachia to the north to the Rust Belt, and all the faces of pain, faces of hope, different types of music, all the different craft beers, just all the little subtle elements I've just absorbed. I love the land and the people. What I hate is the government and the system and the imperialist system. The systems that maintain national oppression, super exploitation of our African American brothers and sisters, super exploitation, Chicano brothers and sisters, and exploitation of the working class all around. Can't stand it. And I'd like to see a people's-led anti-imperialist movement that builds power of the people and dismantles systems of national oppression, systems of class exploitation, builds up the country and destroys the system and rebuilds a new system where we are the main focus. A system that works to lift people out of poverty, then improve the standards of living. We need to tear down and rebuild to get that. And what I'm describing is socialism. And I know a lot of people in America who are proud to be American say socialism, communism, that's horrible. What about Stalin? Stalin was great. Stalin lifted the Soviet Union out of poverty. Stalin stopped massive famines by industrializing agriculture. And they were in worse conditions than we are. Think about, we got it good. We got way far better conditions. If we were to take power, tear down and rebuild the state, we'd have far less problems than Stalin faced. We need a new America. We need a system of, for, and by the people. And to do that, we need a state that has supremacy over the economy. And we need collective organizations on a mass level, mass organizations that keep that state power in check. Right now, what we have is we have two shills of a party, two shills that they call parties, two shells that are basically media advertisement campaigns for various sectors of the elite and the imperialists, where they can play off rural workers against urban workers. They can play off black against white, and they keep walking to the back of the bank. And we never get socialized medicine. We never get student debt. We never get the basic infrastructure we need. And we're taught the Republican voters are the problem. We're taught the Democrat voters are the problem. The whole damn system is guilty. And I'm tired of it. So I got a few announcements. That's kind of my introduction. Shout out to James Graham for being with us. James Grad says, "Hi, comrades." Well, welcome, brother. Man, I'd love to keep this interactive. If you'd like to say a question, raise a topic you'd like me to talk about, no super chat necessary. I got a few notes, but the more I can interact off of y'all, the better. Shout out to Class Analysis. Hi, comrades. Right on. I like to say good evening or good night, but given the nature of these lives, there's always people from all around the country and around the world. You never know what time zone they're in. So I always say greetings, comrades, greetings all. There's a big shout out to everybody. I don't really like when I go on a YouTube and I get in the chats or I get into Facebook. My comments are to all, or everyone involved in that, not just the speaker. So talk amongst yourselves, organize amongst yourselves. We are a community. We're a community promoting socialism, trying to make the world a better place. Nelson Galvin, hello, Mr. James. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for your comment. Got a nice Dos Equis. I'm going to go ahead, bear with me a moment. I'm going to go ahead and share this out. I actually got my, usually I go live from my personal Facebook page, but Facebook, for the exact same post, I don't know, it was several months ago, I shared, actually back when Trump viciously murdered the general Soleimani, the beloved Iranian general Soleimani, who was one of the greatest anti-terrorist forces in the world. It was called a terrorist and murdered. The outright hypocrisy. Soleimani was on a peace mission in Iraq, and he was brutally targeted and murdered by the U.S. empire, by our government. And then his name was thoroughly demonized and called a terrorist when he was one of the biggest forces fighting terrorism. Terrorists that the U.S. backs in Syria. Terrorists that the Saudis back. And the U.S. backs the Saudis. This so-called war on terrorism seems to be a war against anybody building up their countries. Seems to be a war on Libya. Seems to be a war on Syria. Seems to be a war against Saddam and the Iraqi government. They never actually destroy the terrorists. They just make the terrorists stronger. And then when a government that has full sovereignty over itself, like Iran, whose state has supremacy over the economy, who is in defiance, existed and survived and thrived in the current system against all odds, against sanctions, against brutal attacks. The Iranian people and the Iranian government have stood strong, and they are the ones fighting against the terrorism. And then Soleimani gets murdered in cold blood. And me and my little trailer in North Carolina, and I see this and I understand this. I put an Iranian flag on my trailer wall. And I say, solidarity. This was an act of injustice. And everything was fine. And then a year anniversary after I taped that flag up, I was looking back through my pictures, and I posted up the picture. And I said, hey, I stand in solidarity with the Iranian government, the Iranian people, and their government. And they took away my privilege to go live for 30 days. And then I immediately screenshot that and then reposted it, both on my personal page and my Anti-Imperialist America page. Okay. And that was like 3 months ago. Just recently, like a day or two ago, they said this post goes against our community standards. And this time they took away my privilege of going live to Facebook for 60 days. So that is why on one of my sock accounts, it was actually originally supposed to be my my more personal account. I added it as an administrator of Anti-Imperialist America, and I'm going live to Anti-Imperialist America. Even though I have like 4,000, I don't know how many friends. I got 3,000 or 4,000 friends on my regular Facebook page. And my Anti-Imperialist America page only has like 600 or 700 likes. If I could get the likes up to to over 5,000, then I would prefer to go on my Anti-Imperialist America page. But I lose viewers every time they take away my right to go live on my main page. So right now I'm live on Anti-Imperialist America. If you can if you're on Facebook, please invite people to like my Anti-Imperialist America page. Because if I can get more likes on that, I can kind of get around some of the bans. Because Anti-Imperialist America can go live as long as I have a sock account to go live with. But they seem to go pretty hard on my main account. That can be a slow work around it for now. Okay, there I am. I'm live. I'm going to go out and share this out a bit. If you guys can share, if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, tweet this out. Share this on Facebook. Make this a bigger conversation. I'm just going to share it to my main page right quick. And shout out to the people joining me in the chats here. We got Flame of Liberation back, man. Flame of Liberation. If you have not liked the Flame of Liberation page or subscribe to their YouTube, I please recommend doing so. They are a great anti-imperialist comrade, and it's always a pleasure to have me with you here. Oh, man. And shout out to Matthew. They got me for sharing it. My account is still restricted. If a person challenges imperialism on here, that person runs the risk of being muzzled. Yeah, so this is a comrade I shared. Just a flag of Iran with the fact that the Iranian general, the beloved Iranian general, was murdered, and I got my account restricted, and brother Matthew here shared it as well, and he had his account restricted. James Graham, long live Soleimani. Right on, brother. The millions of people that came out in support of their beloved general, his memory lives on. And there's millions of people ready to take his place, to fight against U.S. imperialism and fight against the terrorist pawns of U.S. empire. These ISIS forces are little more than pawns of U.S. imperialism. Because who profits from the chaos that the terrorists create? The imperialist. An undeveloped, chaotic country is easier to control and super exploit. As far as Soleimani, I take a different view. The U.S. had no right to assassinate him, and it was a huge provocation. But he worked with the U.S. to destroy Iraq, and he fought Iran in the Iraq-Iran war. I think that's a great. I really like your comment here. I'm an advocate of a united front against imperialism. And a lot of these forces that I would like to see against imperialism ended up being used as pawns themselves. And Iran in the Iraq war is one of those forces. It's not all crystal clear. We don't live in a black and white world. Someone can do horrible things and wonderful things on a scale. The work of politics is to push history in the right direction. My understanding, history facilitates the destruction of U.S. imperialism, which is holding back history, which is funding terrorism and creating the chaos so they can exploit the third world and the global south, and they can use that as a battering ram against us here. They can move the jobs overseas. Can have floods of migrants come in. That's what they can do. International solidarity is my position. An injury to one is an injury to all. They can destroy the country of our brothers and sisters in the global south. They can destroy our political power. If they can pay worse wages than in the world, they can pay us worse wages. And it's our job as anti-imperialists and as workers and people who are promoting the progression of history, the movement towards socialism and a better world. We must stand with all who are fighting against imperialism, and we must stand up for all that are the boots of U.S. imperialism. Because the economic subjugation here of us is imperialism. There is no differentiation. Imperialism is not foreign policy. Imperialism is a global economic system, a global political economic system. It is imperialism that shoots black, brown, and white brothers and sisters in rural areas, in the hood, in the barrio. It is imperialism that denies us benefits. It is imperialism that does not pay us fair wages, and it's imperialism bombing our brothers and sisters in the South and assassinating their leaders. I really like your comments, brother Flame of Liberation, comrade Flame of Liberation. Your comments are very well appreciated. You give me good stuff to talk about here. And shout out to Estatus. Hi, comrades. We got another comment from Flame of Liberation here. And he supported anti-Saddam's terrorists in the 1990s. While Iraq was confronting the U.S. and its puppets in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. And besides fighting ISIS, he fought against the Ba'athist militias. Yes, this can be the case. You can have people, you can have the same force destroying terrorists, and give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
No more shows. You don't help me to do my homework. No more shows anymore.
All right. Sorry for the interruption, comrades. Wife likes to play a joke on me every now and then. Here we go. We'll get back to this intermission. yeah. Like I was saying, you can have General Soleimani, which was one of the major forces against ISIS, did some horrible shit against Saddam. Saddam, which was a leader of the country that helped modernize his country. A lot can be said about various anti-imperialist figures. There was a whole beef between the Soviet Union and China at one point. I don't take sides in splits. I support anti-imperialism and I support anti-imperialist comrades. Like when I see groups split, Like there was a recent split with the Panthers organization. Um, I can I don't deem any of the I don't know everything about it, but I will continue to support both of the anti-imperialist organizations that are fighting for the liberation of the African American people and for revolutionary intercommunalism, which one is one of the most advanced um, revolutionary theories applied to the conditions in the United States as a prison house of nations. I don't attack anti-imperialist organizations. I don't attack anti-imperialist countries. I'll call them out, but I never write them off. I never cancel them. If I give them criticism, if I give criticism to an anti-imperialist comrade, I do it to their face. A lot of times I don't do it publicly. I do it to them directly. And I hope they improve as a comrade. So the movement improves. Yeah, intermission. Sorry about that, guys. Here we got one from a statist. During late Mao and Deng China made also very bad decisions in terms of foreign policy. Nevertheless, China is and was socialist country. And today, China is again a leader of the anti-imperialist camp. That's absolutely right. China backed Pol Pot. Pol Pot was a CIA-backed person that did horrible atrocities. Socialist governments aren't perfect. Anti-imperialist governments aren't perfect. But they're the ones amassing the force that is fighting against the main enemy. Imperialism led by U.S. imperialism is the main enemy against humanity and the number one stumbling block towards progress, towards socialism. Anyone building socialism anywhere will come under the attack of imperialism led by U.S. imperialism. Anybody who forms a movement in the U.S. to get basic rights, even Bernie Sanders, which I argue is a sheepdog and in their pocket, is too much for the imperialists. They get shut down. Every major movements for social justice and change in the United States has been co-opted and taken over by the imperialist Democratic Party. It is us as we need to be grassroots. We need to be revolutionary. We need to be up for and by the people. No other way around it, brothers and sisters. We got a question here. Nelson Gavin. Mr. James or anyone in the chat. Have you seen the movie Wasp Network? It's on Netflix now, and I recommend it. Okay, I'll write it down. Brother Nelson here. Wasp Network. What's it about, brother? Maybe I'll get it a look, and if it's decent enough, and I find it adequate enough in relevance to do a review on it, I might do a review on it. Thank you for the suggestion. Matthew, yes. James Graham. I would love if everyone got round the table and had a reasonable and civilized discussion. But war is war, and you can't talk your way out of it. Yeah. I mean, when I see, I got neighbors and stuff joining the U.S. military, and, I tell them, look, man, you joining the warring force that's destroying us. But, you can't really have a moral argument about joining the U.S. military. I mean, you can try, but when they got the money and when they're got struggling people and when they hanging over education, they hanging healthcare over our heads, they paying a reasonable paying jobs for the foreseeable future, and a way out of starvation, a way out of poverty, you really can't compete with that. I've come to the conclusion that the best counter recruitment is the labor movement. The best way of stopping brothers and sisters from poor black and brown brothers and sisters from going over and killing other poor black and brown brothers and sisters is to raise the minimum wage, is to unionize the factories, is to fight the good fight for better economic opportunities here within the belly of the beast. It's interesting that the majority of the anti-imperialist bloc has healthcare, maybe, and has a lot of other stuff. But in the imperial core, we actually have less of a labor aristocracy than Europe or even Australia, which I believe has less of a labor aristocracy than parts of Europe. So in the imperial core, we have less of a labor aristocracy. And this is the core of imperialism. And a lot of that has to do with being able to economically pressure poor black and brown people into joining the U.S. military, to have this massive military presence all over the world. So as a last means of defense against anybody building up their country. They start with economic sabotage, propaganda war. Then they pay saboteurs from within the National Endowment for Democracy. And if all that fails and they still can't do that, and the country ain't got nuclear weapons, they straight up invade that country. They invaded Libya. They invaded Iraq. They've taken over parts of Syria. That's what they do. They had attempted coup. They had an attempted coup that didn't work in Bolivia. They've had attempted coups against our brothers and sisters in Venezuela. And people like to talk about voter repression. Shit, we got voter repression here in North Carolina. Black folks want to vote Democrats, so you got local sheriffs pepper spraying them and macing them on their way to the goddamn polls. Well, these coups are voter suppression of the poor black and indigenous people of Venezuela, who voted in vast numbers to re-elect Nicolas Maduro. Coups are voter suppression. Sabotage is voter suppression. Sanctions are war and murder and voter suppression and suppression of poor people, suppression of poor black and brown brothers and sisters around the world. Solidarity, solidarity, solidarity. Power to the poor black and brown folks here, power to the poor black and brown folks around the world, and death to U.S. imperialism. Hey, shout out to David Fox. David Fox, great comrade. I do a weekly show with him called Working Class Revolt. And we set, and the program of that meeting is an old school 1940s style Communist Party USA meeting. We have labor updates where we talk about the conditions we go through on the workplace, and we talk about the conditions in our community. We have both international and domestic news update from a Marxist anti-imperialist perspective. And then we have interviews. And we also have a workshop on how to dispel incorrect or unprincipled positions from various forces. And recently, we're going to start switching back with a study, which is also a tradition of the 1940s era Communist Party. One meeting is for work. Next meeting is for study. Work and study go together. They influence each other. They help each other. You understand the masses working amongst the masses. They give you input, and that helps you understand theory. And you read theory, and then theory helps you in your work. You need both study and both work for those to influence each other and become the best comrade you can be to support the proletariat. Probably one of the best sections. Everybody knows that my most influential and favorite work is Stalin's The Foundations of Leninism. Stalin, The Foundations of Leninism, goes over what imperialism is in the current era, goes through the main contradictions, oppressed nations, working class, how we should be, and unity against the system of imperialism. But there's also the last chapter in that. And the last chapter in that is actually a salute to the American working class. I think the name of the chapter is American Efficiency and Russian Revolutionary Sweep. And basically, that's a salute to the American working class that built this country. He wrote it in the 50s. And he's talking about the international working class that was pushed to build up this society which we live in. The skyscrapers, the roads. It is workers who built all of this. Yet we stand outcast and starving, miss the wonders we have made. It is we who built this country, and we who should join in enjoying it. And we should dismantle the systems of oppression that exploit our brothers and sisters in the third world. I think there's a fight. There's a lot of people say, well, U.S. workers benefit from U.S. imperialism, which is true. Well, it's not true and it is true at the same point. U.S. workers or workers within the imperialist bloc are treated better than workers in the global South. But it's my firm belief that the majority of working people, including the labor aristocracy, would actually benefit from socialism. We would have a better life under socialism. We wouldn't have these drug problems. We wouldn't have these depression problems if we were joining together arm in arm with everyone around us to build up and promote each other, like the mental effects, the spiritual effects. It would be better for everyone. So we don't benefit from imperialism. It's holding us back. Even the most labor aristocratic worker in the U.S. is being held back by the imperialist system. But they are treated they are treated better than those in the global South. That way, they're less likely to fight against the imperialist system. That is how imperialist hegemony works. And Nixon, right before globalization, right before they were able to destroy the labor aristocracy, was in with the Teamsters, and he knew it. And there was like this kind of like silent majority, almost like social conservative labor aristocracy that was very pro-empire. And after globalization, the labor aristocracy has been shrinking. So I would say there's more opportunity to organize the working class in the U.S. than there ever has been before. And I believe we need to be strong. We need to know our stuff. We need to read theory. We need to organize. We need to be among the people. And we need to preach socialism and spread socialism. One of my ancestors was a preacher in the Second Great Awakening in the United States. And the Second Great Awakening was a social occurrence, was a social revolution. And I believe the Second Great Awakening led to the abolitionist movement. And eventually, and pushed forces like John Brown to eventually lead to the Second American Revolution that destroyed slavery. Now, there was a lot, it didn't stop imperialism. There was all kinds of other shit. While they were down there destroying the slave aristocracy, they were out there mass murdering indigenous brothers and sisters. I mean, history is not black and white. Just like a lot of these anti-imperialist countries do horrible things. But it's an overall arching movement of history. History is like a spiral. and always moving forward. It seems like it's going back. It goes back and forth, and it goes forward. It's a spiral of history moving forward. And I believe the anti-imperialist countries are a sign of that. The Bolivarian revolutions, um, Bolivia, Venezuela, and Nicaragua are all a reaction, not a reaction, but are all come to fruition because of the contradictions that exist in imperialism. They have come to resist and overthrow the imperialist society that's holding back history. And you see this throughout the world. China, with all its problems, is a bulwark against imperialism, U.S. imperialism. So if you're an African country, or if you're Bolivia, you get to choose. You don't have to go right to the IMF with sovereignty killing boards that imposed austerity. You can have better deals with China. And arguably, I mean, that's still a capitalist practice, but it's a bulwark against imperialism. And the Soviet Union was too. Back when the Soviet Union was a power, North Korea was able to import petroleum. And after the fall of the Soviet Union, which many people, I mean, many of your more ultrist and dogmatists would say was a horrible force that should have been overthrown. Even when they were so-called revisionists, even when the Soviet Union became revisionist, they were still giving trade to countries like North Korea. So, I mean, I agree with all the legitimate criticisms of the Sorry about the interruption, comrades. I'm back. Hopefully, everyone's back with me. Okay, a question from Elitist. Is some imperialist countries like Germany, the imperialist export surplus policy is based on making their own workers even poorer? I mean, I could see that export surplus policy where they export the surplus to make horrible conditioning loans to impoverish their own workers. I mean, they'll move anything anywhere. I know sometimes they'll develop factories in high-paying union places in Europe, and then when the U.S. the bigger factory tries to unionize or strike, they'll take those jobs and move them over to high-paying factories temporarily to crush the movement, to crush that union movement, because they know some of these capitalists they have long-term visions, and they understand that they are in a class war. It is time that we understand that we are on the losing side of a class war. There is being a war waged against us, whether we realize it or not. Keep going down here. Shout out to brother Ignacio de la Sol. This is a great young comrade. If you have not, follow him on Facebook. Some of his writings has really progressed quickly. And thanks for being here, brother. If you like Anti-Imperialist America, my page, I share his stuff often. And he's a great young comrade. I'm happy to have you here, brother. Be sure to make some comments or questions. I love something that gives me, even if it seems like you're disagreeing with me, if it gives me a reason to talk and state my position, the better. The more I am challenged, the more well-developed my positions will become. A statist. As Engels wrote, socialism is the answer to the contradiction between growing social production and private appropriation. Very good. Frozen. Yep, I'm back. Frozen up, homie. Oh, yeah, I'm back, brothers and sisters. Feds, FBI. Nah, I live in a rural area with shoddy internet connection. It goes in and out. That's just how it is, man. Very good. Have brother Caleb Moppin with us. That's very good. A quick announcement. I'm not sure. It's being worked out right now, but our next study meeting is going to be with brother Caleb Moppin studying Einstein's Why Socialism. The 20th, this Saturday, brother comrade David Fox is going to be doing he's inviting a guest for us. Hopefully he'll bring us a good guest, and that'll be a great show. That is a work meeting. We're transitioning one work meeting, one study meeting. The 27th, I will be chairing or emceeing the monthly Center for Political Innovation web conference. I'm not sure what the theme on that is yet, but I will be briefly speaking there, and I believe that will be live from Caleb Moppin's channel. And then on the 3rd, we're going to be studying from here. We Are City Builders. If you haven't got this yet, that's good. But it's also available free online. The 3rd, we're going to be studying Einstein's Why Socialism. And I recently shared, in honor of Einstein's birthday, which I call a comrade, a quote from Einstein saying that today's evil are direct result of capitalism. And the brother could not be more right. The comrade Einstein could not be more correct. And in accompany of that, there was a good quote where Einstein talked about how he was taught through lies and propaganda to hate Comrade Stalin and to see Comrade Stalin as a despot. But with his communication, with Einstein's communication with people in Russia, he understood there was a conspiracy against Stalin to remove Stalin. Even Einstein could recognize that. And Einstein was a pacifist, and Einstein was openly anti-authoritarian. But Einstein recognized that the so-called reign of terror was a reaction to legitimate threats against Stalin. And I'm very big on upholding our history, not turning and run like the Trotskyites say. That whenever you act as a socialist and you try to get health care, you try to get better wages, people are like, oh, you're a communist. Communism's horrible. Everywhere communism has they've tried it, it's failed. The answer is no. Stalin was great. The Soviet Union was great. And even some of the smartest people in the world, like Einstein, understood that. And we should uphold and defend history. Now, I ain't saying make it all what you're about. I mean, well, we're going to have various people. Maybe that's what you're best at and that's what you want to do. That's cool. But I mean, if you're organizing with folks, you ain't got to bring Stalin up every single time. But when Stalin does come up, defend him. And know what you're defending and know history, because it matters. Because the same forces that attacked and demonized Stalin are the same forces attacking and demonizing Nicolas Maduro, attacking and demonizing Evo Morales, attacking and demonizing our brothers and sisters in Nicaragua, China, Vietnam. It's the same forces. And it seems to be as you get within these bougie academics, they seem to be the ones that outright trumpet and repeat CIA lies. I think there was a conference. I think Jacobin Magazine, back when ISO was there, I think Max Blumenthal did a great article showing how they invited CIA front groups to talk shit against anti-imperialist conferences at their conferences. At their conferences. And when a Trot or some of these bourgeois, intellectual, so-called socialists come to you with the CIA bullshit, we need to know about it and call it out. And when we organize the masses, and we show the masses, we teach among the masses this stuff, they'll be irrelevant. They'll be irrelevant. Einstein also gave a blazing speech in support of the Soviet Union in 1942. That's great, comrade. I'd like to look at that. If Estatus, if you want to post a link to that speech after this goes live in the comment section for a further note, that'd be great. And Gordon Fiala, amen. Folks don't notice, but I grew, I started out when I was 14, I was very religious, and I wanted to grow up and I wanted to be a preacher, and things kind of changed. I looked at the conditions of my undocumented brothers and sisters, the way the immigrants in my community and my immigrant friends and neighbors were being treated. And I looked at these wars, these ongoing, disgusting wars. And I realized politics was the main need today. And Comrade Einstein is a good show of that. Comrade Einstein was very involved in science, and he basically invented nuclear energy. And he invented a lot of things, like the theory of relativity was revolutionary. But it was also, they used his science to create the atomic bomb. So even investing in science, which will and is supposed to make our lives better, without workers' power and without socialism, even technological advancements hinder us. Technological advancements just make the power of the bourgeoisie and the imperialists stronger. A great example of it now is I'm a delivery driver to convenience stores. And, people on their way to work, they buy their cigarettes. There's a lot of vice, gambling, alcohol, tobacco, a lot of these convenience stores. A little bit of junk food, candy, and maybe some here and there, hot dogs, frozen grill items, milk, maybe some chicken. People like to buy fried chicken. A lot of here in the South. You got some fried chicken, stuff like that. Even some fried gizzards and stuff like that, but getting back to it. And my job's decent. I mean, they work me to death, but I make decent pay. I got health insurance now. And what's going on is we got these new companies out here called GoPuff. And GoPuff is basically a replacement for the convenience store. Basically, they'll use low paid gig workers to deliver right to people's houses from the warehouse, which is efficient. And it would make sense. That'd be great if we had socialism and instead of having to go to the convenience store, you have these things delivered right to your house. That's great. But the problem is they're using this change in the industry and changing the technology to destroy good paying jobs and get rid of benefits and make the entire workforce a gig workforce. And this process has been going on for a while. If you look at the emergence of staffing agencies, 5% of the workforce was staffing agencies in the 90s. Now it's up to 30% of the workforce are staffing agencies, lower paid, less benefits. There's been a class war waged against us, and we are losing horribly. And the increases in technology, the microprocessor revolution, instead of enabling us to have better lives, it's enabled global shipping systems. Be able to keep track of global shipping systems so they can ship jobs overseas. A lot of people like to think, well, if you get into liberalism, it's like, well, if someone's good, if we have a good person in power, they're going to do good for us. So by that logic, Nixon was a good person because Nixon had a labor aristocracy. Nixon helped the reactionary hard hat workers that supported imperialism. Okay, and in all reality, Nixon was not a good guy. Nixon was operating within the material conditions at the time. And at the time, the U.S. empire needed workers. But after the computer revolution and the microprocessor revolution, with the advent of global shipping systems, they no longer need as much a labor aristocracy. So it's not because Nixon is good or that or this. Every political force is reacting to the material conditions. And this is the difference between scientific socialist approach and a liberal approach. Thank you for posting that link. Maybe I'll copy that. If you wait till after the video, the link will be up there permanent. YouTube has this funny thing where a chat is not a comment and a comment is not a chat. Chats, you can't click on. If you post in the chat, you can't follow that profile. You get the name of the profile and the picture, but you can't click on that to follow the profile. But if you wait till after something's been posted and click make a comment, then it's more easily visible and you can follow that profile and go subscribe to them as well. So I end up doing that a lot. So even if you're watching this after the fact, please comment. And I'll get back to you with the comments. And hopefully, and look at the people who have commented on my videos. Make this a community. If someone is commenting on my video and you like their comment, go subscribe to that comrade's page. It's already 9 o'clock. I got to get up at 5. A few more announcements. So I went over working class revolts. I talked about the CPI conference coming up. I'm also going to be doing some stuff with Ewoks Unhinged. Right on the 27th, I believe it's March. On the 27th at 7 o'clock, I'll be chairing the CPI, chairing or emceeing, hosting the monthly CPI conference. But just before that, I believe at 4 or 5 o'clock, I'll be going live with Ewoks Unhinged as well. And then later on, with Red Scare and Ewoks Unhinged, I believe in Red Lettuce, sometime in April, I'll be doing a I don't know, what do you call them? Like a conference or a table discussion, a panel discussion on U.S. patriotism or revolutionary American patriotism, which I led this show off at the beginning, basically talking about I love this country, I love my neighbors, I love the beautiful culture here, the food, the people, but I hate the government, and I hate imperialism, and I think we need to destroy the government and rebuild it. We can't just take hands on it. We need to rebuild it in a way that actually helps the people. And I have a 3-point plan. My 3-point plan is, number 1, end the wars. So stop the attacks on the working class. Stop killing poor black and brown people in the hoods and the barrios and in the hollers. Get rid of the 800 military bases. And then number 2 is take economic power. Nationalize the major forms of industry, the steel mills, transportation, the whole transportation industry, telecommunications, electric. All this should be nationalized and run for the people. Not the hotels, not the service sector, but the major framework. And number 3 is build. Build infrastructure. Build high-speed trains. That's my 3-point plan. End the war, take economic power, and build up society for the benefit of the people. Simple, straight. I think that's what we need for socialism. And in that end of war is the dismantling of national oppression of internal colonies and dismantling of the oppression of the global South. And I think any U.S. patriotism that doesn't fully grasp this tenet is dangerous and can be manipulated against our enemy. I mean, if you look at the patriotism of the Republicans, it's very jingoistic. Well, before Trump, it was love it or leave it. It's almost like the cancel culture today. I believe the cancel culture kind of started with the Bush movement. I'd say the first people that got canceled are one of my favorite group of talented young women, the Dixie Chicks, were one of the first people to get canceled. Now people getting canceled for other reasons, and that's a whole nother story, usually anti-imperialist. And for some reason, Biden, who is a rapist and a war criminal, didn't get canceled. But all these other people got canceled. That's interesting. So I went over some announcements, going through my notes. I've been gone here about an hour. Shout out to Iowa Blackbird. I appreciate you, Insights Comrade. Well, thank you. James Graham. 17th March, St. Patrick's Day. The Wolf Tones, Hail Glorious St. Patrick. Right on, brothers and sisters. Anti-Conquista did a Sons of Fidel recently with Irish comrades, and that was a great video If you want to know more about the Irish struggle for liberation, the Irish struggle for liberation today, go and check out that recent video from Anti-Conquista on the Irish national struggle. That was great stuff. And we got St. Patrick's Day coming. Was that tomorrow? Let's see. It is St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, y'all. I think it's my brother's birthday too, man. We got to get, man, one of my favorite songs for St. Patrick's Day is actually an Italian ska band's version of Sam Song. Just type in ska Sam Song, and that is my first favorite song about shooting down helicopters. My second favorite song about shooting down helicopters is the brother shit. let me get a drink real quick. Steve Earle's Copperhead Road is about shooting down helicopters as well. And that's talking about the lumpen proletariat that evolved in the South. Which is interesting, the moonshine, and then that went on to weed, and then the song, which you hear at all these bars, Copperhead Road, is actually about shooting down police helicopters. And another song that's really good about shooting down police helicopters is Sam's Song, which is an Irish national song. We have got a weapon the Brits cannot ignore. And my version of it is actually done by a ska group, which is really hype, upbeat shit. And then one of my other favorite songs for St. Patrick's Day has got to be Comrade David Rovick's St. Patrick's Battalion. That is great history, and it is a great song. Maybe I'll sing the first verse or two of it, since it is coming up on St. Patrick's Day. My name is John Riley. I'll have you here only a while. I left my dear home in Ireland. It was death, starvation, or exile. When I got to America, it was my duty to go to slog across Texas and join in the war against Mexico. That's about that. I know the first bit of it. But that's a beautiful song. St. Patrick Battalion. I didn't get into the main hot verse, but look up that song and listen to it for St. Patrick's Day. I didn't even have to get the lyrics out on that one. There's a very few songs where I know at least the first few lines I can get in on. The other one that I know, some freestyle and stuff, but man, I think that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you all you comrades for coming on here, and be sure to catch me with my next time I'll go live will be the 20th for Working Class Revolt. We have a to be announced guest coming on that Comrade David Fox is going to announce. Join us 8 p.m. Standard Eastern Time for Working Class Revolt on the 20th. And as always, comrades, all power to the people.